Guess who's back?
Who's back?
Back again.
We're back. Back again.
Tell a friend. You got your Eminem haircut?
I don't even look like Eminem.
No, you don't.
Okay.
But I do think it's worth noting that I did update our art for this show.
Yeah, for season 2, and I went ahead and made it completely incorrect.
And then you cut your hair.
Shaved it all off. Buzzed it off. I've still got a little bit.
It's a damn good look, though.
I like it.
Low maintenance.
Yeah.
High speed, low drag.
It's not in my face all the time.
All right.
It's
Season
so
2.
I can see movies better.
Is that it?
That's the excuse I'm going
It's like
with.
taking the black bars off of the letterbox versions, and you're able to see it all. All right, cool. Season 2.
Season 2.
You ready?
Are the viewers ready?
Hey, we're going whether the viewers are ready or not. They know what time the train leaves the station. Here we go.
All right.
Hello, and welcome back to the Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood, Season 2, kicking it off. I am Phil Rood. I'm still the dad.
And I'm Austin Rood. I am still the son. That's our show.
See ya.
Okay, bye, guys. No, every week we watch a movie and then we talk about it. It has not changed.
Nope, same show.
Yep.
It
would be weird if we were, okay, now we're a book club.
Yeah, that's right. We're back, and we only talk about radio plays from the 1930s.
This is our candle review show.
Oh, hey, yeah. Welcome to NPR's Candle Talk. How was your break?
It was good.
Yeah? Little break. You had a break from work?
And a break from the podcast and work and school.
Yep. All good. Got some time off, and
I did nothing with it.
Not nothing. We recorded an episode.
Well, right.
We had the Life Day special.
Of course. How could I forget?
I mean, really.
Yeah, but sometimes not doing anything is like the best thing to do.
Sure. I know you watched a bunch of Doctor Who, but did you check anything else out? Any other movies over break?
Doctor Who, Mandalorian, and Soul were like the big 3. I wanted to watch.
That's good stuff.
The new Wonder Woman, not because it's particularly.
I don't.
It's something new. I haven't had a new superhero movie. So.
I went on a big tear of watching bad reviews of Wonder Woman 1984, 85.
All I've heard is bad things about it.
Yeah, but like YouTube reviewers that I enjoy, The Critical Drinker, Red Letter Media, stuff like that. People who generally have a good take, a smart take on, not just like this sucked, but like. And I really got on a tear, and it just sort of, like, I wasn't super interested in seeing that movie to begin with. And it just sort of reinforces, like, how much I don't want to watch that. I have a limited amount of time, and I don't want to spend it watching Wonder Woman. Is it 84 or 85?
It's 84,
I don't even know.
Yeah. I'm more interested in the fact that Patty Jenkins, I think that's her name, she's directing the next Star Wars movie. It's not an episode, it's just a solo movie. But reportedly, they're sending in like Star Wars executives to help her direct it now. Because they don't think she can handle it. They think she's going to ruin Star Wars now.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell if Patty Jenkins is a good writer-director or not. Because I didn't hate the first Wonder Woman, but I didn't think it was particularly good. Like, it had some good scenes in it. I don't really care about 84, but years ago she wrote and directed a movie called Monster about Eileen Wuornos, a serial killer. Okay. And it's not, like, historically accurate, but it is a good movie. Like, so it is just sort of like, she's one of those directors who's like, hit and miss with me, and I can't tell if she's good or not, if she's a good director who's a bad fit for franchise movies, or you know what I mean? Like,
right.
like sometimes, like
Let's not forget she worked on Thor 2.
Did she?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
I think that's what I heard because people are now like just roasting her pretty much, which I think is a little unfair. It's a DC movie.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know. I mean, I have no problem roasting bad directors. I just can't tell if she's one of them or not. You know what I mean? Like, I have no problem roasting Michael Bay or Zack Snyder or Roland Emmerich or any of 1,000 people who keep making movies, even though I can't figure out why people keep seeing them, you know?
Sure.
But, yeah, I can't quite get a beat on her if she's a good director or not, or if she had a fluke good film. I'd have to dive deeper into her filmography and see other things she's done.
Yeah. What about you? What's new? Anything watched?
Yeah, I'm sure. I've just kind of been watching some stuff here and there. I tried to watch His Dark Materials on HBO. It's the Golden Compass series. I've taken 2 runs at that now and just decided this show is not for me. Like, I don't think it's a badly done show. It just is not clicking with me at all.
Right. I watched the first few episodes on like your first run.
Yeah.
And
then I just recently tried again, and I'm just like, there's just there's something here. I'm just not getting to it. But I punched out of that one. I'm getting ready to start my Better Call Saul rewatch.
What'll that take you? A week?
It depends on how much time I can clear. I'm going to have to gear up for season 3 of Korra here pretty soon too.
Right.
Because we're going to hit that this season.
I can't wait.
And a movie I revisited last week was the Robert Altman directed Prairie Home Companion movie. It's based on and adapted from the NPR variety show, A Prairie Home Companion. I think it's still going on.
None of this means anything to me.
I know you've listened to it because you've been in the car with me when I listened to it. It's like old-timey variety hour kind of radio, old-fashioned radio stuff that is
like
still
an
going
audio
on.
drama?
Parts of it are. It's all comedy. There's music, a lot of roots Americana music on there. And the movie takes place on supposedly like the last show, you know, like they're being shut down by the radio station. And it is so much a Robert Altman movie in that there's just so much atmosphere with a bunch of characters talking and a lot going on at one time. It's also written by Garrison Keillor, who created the Prairie Home Companion radio show. He's in it. The cast is amazing. Your mom and I watched it, and it just really, I saw it when it was a very new movie and haven't seen it since. I was so happy to revisit it. It's a very Midwestern thing. So there's a lot of sort of Midwestern people in there, and you realize, oh, there's so much like, there's stuff that will tie into our movie this week, because there's so much about like Midwestern people that is almost like, it's almost Taoist. It's almost like they're just so go with the flow and all of this, and it's portrayed, and it's just such a slice of that. And the music is great, and it's very funny, and I don't know, I just can't say enough good stuff about it. It's on HBO Max somewhere, Prairie Home Companion. It's just one of the few movies I've sat down for in our hiatus here that I've really just been so stoked to get back to.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's
it's
about
such
it.
a thing that like I know nothing about.
I don't know how to describe it and do it justice. It's almost just a movie you have to just kind of experience and go, oh, that was really something. And
sure.
It's an odd little movie, but it's one that I'm glad exists.
Is it something that you can watch without knowing the radio show?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's characters from the radio show on there. But you don't need to know like backstory to them.
That's kind of like the downfall of some movies that are based on other things.
Sure. I think you would enjoy it because it is sort of like, it is a kind of behind the scenes of a play that's being put on. So,
See, I love that atmosphere.
There's a play called Noises Off, and they made a movie of that as well, and it takes place like behind the scenes of a play that's going on. And it's a very interesting, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of stuff going on. And that's a lot of what this is. There's a lot of backstage stuff, and then they show you part of the show. And, character interactions. It's just, it's a really fun movie.
Yeah.
You're a theater kid. I think you would really appreciate it.
But behind the scenes stuff is more interesting than whatever
exactly.
is put, on stage.
There's just, like, so much going on. The movie also has, like, there's a mild supernatural element to it that just sort of weaves itself in almost very organically. It's just, it's a really charming movie. Yeah.
There's a lot of mysticism with theater, too. Like,
sure.
Don't say this, don't say that.
Superstition, and then
right.
there's, like, you get into, like, old theaters that have history, and they're like, they say there's a ghost, like...
That's why they have the ghost light.
In DeKalb, Illinois... Close to where I'm from, there's the Egyptian Theater, which is this very historic theater there, and they actually have ghost tours and things like that at certain times of the year because it's said to, have ghosts and be this haunted theater. It's really pretty cool. It's very cool, yeah. Anyway, that's we've covered our break, and we're back. So what are we back with here?
We are back with Soul, and forgive me, because this is my first time introducing a movie.
Right into it.
But this week we watched the new Pixar animated comedy, Soul. It's the story of a music teacher whose soul has to make it back to his body with the help of an infant soul who is learning about life on Earth. It stars Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Graham Norton, Felicia
Rashad,
Angela Bassett. I can't read names, guys. And Questlove. It was written by Pete Docter, Kemp Powers, and Mike Jones, and directed by Pete Docter and Kemp Powers.
Yes, it was.
That is all.
Well, this was your pick.
It was.
Why did you pick this one to kick off our second season?
Well, originally I was just going to go with 12 Angry Men, which I had picked before our break. But I
think what we need to do with 12 Angry Men is make sure we never cover it on this show.
It has to be. We always talk about it.
We always tease it. It has to be.
It's coming next week, guys.
When Carrie and I were doing Brokeback Mountain, we kept planning to do war games, and we would, and it kept getting bumped. So the running joke was always that we were going to do war games, and we never ever did.
Oh, so you're just not even coming up with original gags now?
No,
you're just carrying over. Okay,
that's absolutely correct, David.
All right.
Okay, so
no, but this released on Christmas, and I'm so starved for new movies right now. Even though there's a bunch of movies that I haven't seen, but new releases in 2020 are hard to come by.
Oh, yeah, nothing came out. So much stuff got bumped last year. Yeah.
So I was really interested to see this. I'd been interested since the trailers because a Pixar movie about death just seems really intriguing.
Yeah.
And then I watched it on Christmas, and I watched it with my mom, your wife. Her name's Christy.
Slow down.
I know. Is everyone connecting the dots here? We're related. And yeah, I wanted your take on it because Mom did not like it. I
don't think she didn't.
She wasn't as hyped about it.
She did not like it. I think everybody likes Pixar movies, but everybody also has a favorite. You know what I mean? And some just click in with people. It
didn't connect with her
a little bit better. On the 2020 note, I was on the Two Peas on a Podcast Facebook page the other day, and their poll question was, what was your favorite movie of 2020? And I realized that released in 2020, I think the only movie I saw that released last year was Emma. and that I watched for the
Really?
podcast. I don't think I saw a single 2020 release. Just going over like a Google list of what movies released, I'm sure maybe I missed something very early in the year that I saw.
Well, Emma was early in the year.
But I didn't see it till almost the end of the year.
Right.
The last movie I saw in the theater was Rise of Skywalker, which was over a year ago now. So, I mean, like, I don't think I really saw hardly anything new last year.
I saw a tweet at one point that said Sonic the Hedgehog was going to win Best Picture for 2020.
I did see that, too, because it was the only thing that came out.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that could have happened.
I think the last movie I saw in theaters was Cats.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know which one of us to feel sorrier for.
I kind of liked it. It was a fun experience. Don't hate me. I've ruined all my
I have not
credibility
seen
in
it,
one
but
second.
I want to enjoy looking at the cats that we have in our home.
All right. Where do we start with this mammoth of a movie?
Well, you want my take on it, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to just straight out say I loved this movie.
Good.
I really, this was not like a tearjerker for me in the way that something like Coco was, or Up. You know, everybody gets wrecked in that first 10 minutes of Up, and they remember Up as being this horribly sad movie. But honestly, once you're over that first hump of it,
Right. That montage is really like
I
the
think
highlight.
I think the rest of Up becomes very much a celebration of love and the idea of a relationship with somebody, as opposed to being a tragedy. But no, this movie hit me in a very specific way that I don't know if I can articulate it, honestly. It just really resonated with me.
It almost gives you like an existential crisis.
For sure, there's a lot of that. I expected to walk away from this shattered, as it was about an artist who has fallen short in a lot of ways. And it wasn't that at all. It actually picked me up a lot about whatever insecurities I have about what I do. And I really just, I walked away from this movie thinking, this sort of brought into focus a lesson I've been learning over the past few years, and sort of almost articulated a lot of lessons that I've come to understand, and I didn't have to die to do it. You know what I mean? Like I came away feeling fortunate that I didn't have to have a near-death experience to appreciate my life and the little things in it.
I think that's like the good thing about movies. Like they're always, if they're a good movie, some sort of life lesson teaches you something. But this is so direct with its message.
Yeah.
And like it really confronts you with death and what life is about. All of these questions that humans have that we don't have the answers to.
And I don't think we're supposed to have the answers to them. And I think that's a lot of what this movie is saying as well. Like,
this movie doesn't even show us what happens after death. It doesn't show us the great beyond.
Yes. Just the conveyor belt going there, which, by the way, the cat on the conveyor belt is maybe my favorite joke in the whole movie. Like,
don't worry, guys, he's fine, apparently.
Where's the cat soul? They just show it. It's just... But, no, I think there was... you're right. It is very direct in what it's saying, but I think it does it without being heavy-handed. It's not preachy. This isn't a preachy movie.
No.
And it's so easy when you start... talking about existential things to get preachy with it. And I say that as somebody who in the last few years, some of the writing that I've done and some of the comics that I'm making, I am sort of searching to be a little more existential, and I have a really hard time doing it without, I'll do something and I'll go, this is terribly preachy and
Right.
and
This is just trying to sound deep.
clubbing people over the head, and that could be my own insecurity. I don't know that I'm nailing anything yet, but I'm not going to talk about my stuff here.
That's fine.
It's very tricky and very hard to do, is all I'm saying. And
Right.
and I think this movie manages to do it, and it really like surprises me in a few ways. The way it goes about doing it, like he reclaims his body.
Yeah.
And makes it to the gig, and I was like, I honestly did not think that would happen.
That wasn't the ending I was
and then he
expecting
has
either.
his realization after the fact, and I think the movie is better for it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to ask you a question because it's one that I thought, and I've seen people talking about it, and everyone has like a different answer. And it's, do you think this is a kid's movie? Like, it seems so adult geared. My answer is it's an everyone movie, but
It is an all ages movie. Yes.
right. But I do think some of like the particular themes will not resonate with a child the same way it'll resonate with an adult.
I think it will. I was going to save this until after the break because it's big, potentially. This reminded me a lot, as I was watching it, of John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, the children's special that you and I watched, a year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Right. Because that is a children's show, and I think a lot of people thought it was a parody of a children's show. But I think it's a legitimate, like, children's show that he filmed with kids. And there's a lot of talk in that about death. Mm-hmm. And the reason I like that show, and the reason I think is the same reason I think this is a movie that is perfectly appropriate for kids. If you think kids don't think about death, you've never spent any significant time around kids. Kids ask you about death. Kids ask about heaven. Kids ask about all kinds of things. Where was I before I was born? Where, a relative dies. A kid is going to be curious about that. And I don't think, and this is, I'm not giving parenting advice here. This is just my opinion.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily appropriate to shelter a kid from a conversation about death. I don't think you should scare the shit out of a kid.
Right.
Or give them an existential crisis at 4 years old. But maybe not like...
I like movies that are honest with kids.
Exactly. I don't think this is anything less than an honest movie about... And it's not even a movie about death. I think this is a movie about appreciating your life and doing it without expectation.
I would agree. I do think when I say like it might go a little over a kid's head, I'm not talking about like, oh, what is death? But more like it's like the way that the film handles certain aspects of the story, like when he gets what he wants but he doesn't feel satisfied.
Sure.
And it's not explicitly said, it's just kind of shown in these dark, quiet moments.
I think that's one of the best parts of the movie.
Oh, it's brilliant, but I don't know if it translates to a kid's film interpretation language.
Maybe not. But I don't think it's inappropriate for a kid, and I think it's something. You ever watch a movie when you're a kid and then you watch it a little bit later in your life and you get an aspect that you didn't get before but was always there?
Yes.
I think it's one of those. I watched the movie Parenthood. I've talked about it before, I'm sure, when I was in high school. And I thought, yeah, it's fine. I watched it after I became a parent, and it bowls you over. Like,
right.
Oh my God. Like, this movie's brilliant. Like, I don't know if it's brilliant, but it gets into the anxieties of being a parent. Like, that you're just not going to get that level of it if you're not in charge of raising children. And I think that is one of those themes. I think the message of that is is less about like, oh, everything just becomes a job eventually, and more about like, don't chase this gig because you think it's what you want. Chase it, enjoy playing music, like enjoy the thing you do. Right. Enjoy the chase. Exactly. Enjoy the journey. It's the friends we made along the way.
I think one of like the best scenes in this movie is when he's talking to the musician. I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
And she tells him the story about the fish looking for the ocean.
Right.
And not realizing he's in it.
He's in it, yes.
And it just ties in so perfectly with what the movie's about. Searching for the purpose of life without realizing that you're living. That is the purpose.
Yes. Or that there is no purpose. You're not appreciating anything. You're just sort of... Your eyes are somewhere else. You're not in your moment. You're not appreciating what you have.
When you're so focused on answers, you're not looking at everything.
You're focused
else.
down the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think all of that. There's so much packed into this that
I know.
I
How do
really
you even go about talking about it?
I feel like I should have watched it twice. You know what I mean? Like I tried to unpack this, but let's take a break and drop an ad in, and then we'll come back and jump further in.
Yeah,
before we get too over our heads with this surprisingly deep discussion.
Don't worry, guys. It's just life.
And we're back.
Welcome back.
How was your break?
Oh, well, I fell down a hole.
Oh my God. Are you okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm not actually me. I'm this cat that took over
George?
my body.
George, are you talking? Yeah.
Give me catnip.
Let's talk about... I want to talk about the performances in this movie.
Voice or animation?
All of it.
Okay.
Because I think Tina Fey is brilliant in this movie. And I think her coupled with how her character is animated, whether it's the soul number 2 or when she is inhabiting Joe's body, I think it all works so perfectly. I should feel disjointed when watching her voice come out of a tall black man's body, but it plays very organically and very like it's very funny, but it doesn't feel like Uncanny Valley. It doesn't feel like this is wrong. The way the animators move the body when she's learning to walk,
uncomfortable with it.
It's all. I think it's like legitimate acting that the animators do, and it's coupled so perfectly with the voices in this.
I need a behind the scenes for how because like the way 22 moves in Joe's body is just like how she moves in like the pre-life,
right?
Like in that dimension. It's the same kind of thing.
Big ball of energy, but
yeah.
she can't control it. Yeah.
And it's like, how do you do that when they're totally different bodies?
But also when she is before she's in Joe's body, when they're going through like there's like a little bit of subtlety to 22 as well. When they're going through like the Hall of Everything and trying to find like what your purpose is. He's showing her all of the different things she could do.
Right.
You remember?
Yeah, I remember.
And like they're the firefighter one, and
she wants to let it keep burning.
She goes, "Ooh, the fire is pretty," and she's like, "What if we let it spread?" And there's like this very slow smile that spreads across her face.
So creepy.
It is so perfect. I could not stop laughing at that. It was that just, but it was also like this character that has these big movements also had this very subtle facial movement in that moment. And I'm like, this is just like Pixar animation has come so far in terms of in general how it looks, it's so much sharper. They're so much better at people. But I think their acting has gotten so much better as well. Like, they really let these characters, the movements, be a performance. They're not just moving pieces around the screen.
Yeah, and I'm sure that gets easier with, like, advancements in animation.
For sure.
But yeah.
But I just, it's so great. They're not doing motion capture to the best of my knowledge.
I don't think so. It doesn't look like motion capture.
Yeah, they're still animating. So they're still they're creating these performances all within a computer. Mm-hmm. And I think the animators deserve huge props for that.
For sure. There's a lot of voice acting talent in this as well.
Yeah, Angela Bassett is great as that. She's the musician, the sax player.
Okay.
And Felicia Rashad, I recognized her voice right away.
Is she the caretaker?
She's the mom. She's his mom,
okay.
Who runs the seamstress, like the tailor shop.
Yeah.
And I thought she was great. Her storyline was a little too Coco. You know, like, I don't want you to be a musician because your dad was a musician. But it was fine. It also fit. It wasn't a direct rip.
I really didn't even notice that.
Because I saw Coco not long ago, and I also love Coco. I think that's also one of the better Pixar movies.
Yeah, I saw her more as, like, an outward influence of, like the story is about living your life, and so, like, there are these outward influences of this is how you should live your life.
Right.
I'm worried about, like, here are the constraints. You can't just do whatever you want because you have bills to pay. And as your mother, I have opinions on how you should run it and things of that nature.
When you parent, you have concerns about your kids and how they're going to get by in life. You want it to be as easy it's very easy to overstep bounds and tell your kids how they should live their lives.
Right.
And you can see, I like that.
Especially when your job as a parent to an early child is to tell them how to live their life.
How to live their life and to prepare them for the world.
Right.
Not to prepare you to live your dream as you see fit, but you know the realities of the world. And I do like that at the end of this, she was not, like, not understanding of him. You know, like, they came somewhere in the middle. And, you know, I thought it was so sweet when she got his dad's suit out.
Yeah, it was like a compromise.
Yeah, she saw where he was coming from, and yeah, I thought it was a fleshed out relationship. She wasn't just this nagging mom, you know.
Yeah, that would have felt out of place in a movie like this.
It wouldn't have been satisfying at all to just have it be, you know, and then resolved by him standing up to her, and she goes, "Oh, okay, that's fine." But it was more nuanced than that.
I think she's one of the characters in this movie that embodies a life lesson, and she reminds me of another character, the barber. When he talks about, oh, I didn't want to be a barber. I can't remember what his original...
he wanted to be a veterinarian.
Right.
And he couldn't afford college once his daughter was born. And he ended up being a barber.
Right.
And then he, you know...
He says he loves it.
Yeah.
Because Joe asks, like... or no, I think 22 in Joe's Body asks... Well,
I'm sorry you didn't get to be a vet or something like that.
Yeah,
or
like, you must be sad now. And he shows, no, you can change your purpose, what you want to do. That's perfectly okay.
Like, he's essentially saying, this is just a job. Mm-hmm. You know, like that didn't... Your job, what you want to do, that doesn't dictate how happy you are in life. You know, everybody has a job that beats them down. Everybody has a job they don't like at some point in their life. It doesn't mean you have to be a miserable person, you know, and that's something a lot of us take a long time to learn. I think this movie has a great outlook on vocation versus actually having a fulfilling life.
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Exactly.
And there's another lesson in that character that, like, I think it's one of my favorite lines in this movie, but like I'm gonna regret saying that because then I'm gonna think of another
I know,
line.
this movie's full of them.
When they're leaving the barbershop and 22 in Joe's body says, "Oh, I never knew that about you," and he says, "You never asked," and it's just another one of those small little aspects of like Joe is so focused on this goal,
Right,
that he doesn't even really acknowledge the people in his life, and in that way, like, he's kind of rude to them or might hurt them.
I think a lot of us are the hero of our own story. And so we think that we're the one that... I think that's a natural tendency for a lot of people.
We're the main character.
We're the main character. We're the one that matters. And...
it's really an ensemble cast, guys.
It really is. I mean, honestly, like, yes.
Treat the extras like they're the directors.
It is a really good moment. The other line I like from that is the people waiting for the chair are like, "Ooh, I got to get one of these lollipops," because
whatever's in them. Yeah,
there's like an edible joke later in there. Again,
you'll get that when you're older.
Not for kids, but when you're older, you'll
right.
get that. Yeah. What do you want to hit next?
What else? I mean, there's such a long laundry list. We talked about animation, but one of the specific things I wanted to talk about, just a small detail, is the immortal beings in this movie are 2D in a 3D animation. Like,
right.
They're these scribble-like creatures, and to me that, like...
it's a collection of shapes.
Yeah, it portrays to me that, like, they are so out of our understanding.
Yeah.
And this is just a brief form, just like a tiny glimpse of their
We have to present
existence.
ourselves in the simplest form possible.
Right.
So you can get your little brain around it.
And instead of trying to come up with a really complicated, like, 4D
right.
something, they just went, oh, we'll simplify it. We'll just kind of scribble something on the page.
And they're all named Jerry. And was it Barry? The accountant is
Barry.
And I think that's great. And the Jerrys are all like famous people too. Like Wes Studi is one. Alice Braga is like probably the main one. And then
it's the guy from IT Crowd.
Moss from the IT Crowd. I can't remember his name.
Richard something.
Yeah. God, that guy's so funny. But
he is. It actually, all of them being named Jerry reminds me of The Good Place, because there's an all-knowing, powerful being called the Judge, and she's kind of like a god, and her name is Jen. Short for hydrogen, which was the only thing that existed in the universe when she was created.
Yeah. That's great. On top of the higher beings, I liked the visuals of all the spiritual realm. Like,
yeah, it's this blue.
It's like this kind of pastel kind of thing. The zone.
I love the zone.
Like, the zone is really a cool concept. It's like, it's between here and there.
Mm-hmm. And the shamans that kind of can go between.
Yeah, the portrayals of the lost souls.
I thought that was really sad.
I thought it was very sad, but I also thought it was so relevant to what keeps people from enlightenment and from all the lessons of this movie. Is these are people wrapped up in anxiety, and it's just like they're not even dead. That guy is like a hedge fund manager he quits his job immediately. It's so great.
I think that scene with 22 being what are they, lost souls?
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking to me. You said this wasn't a tearjerker. I cried.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't emotional at all. I mean, certainly there are moments. I'm saying this didn't hit me. This didn't bring me to tears. But
okay.
I do recognize, absolutely, I did feel emotion at that point. I felt emotion when Joe was playing piano in his apartment and remembering all these moments in his life.
connecting these motifs,
you know,
and stuff,
kind of. Oh, I maybe I didn't appreciate this at the time. And there's one of those memories where he's playing piano and his dad is next to him on the bench, and it's like, oh my God, you know, that one like really like gut punched you.
Right.
But
I think with 22, she's a character that a lot of kids and like teenagers especially, I think, will relate to her.
oh sure,
And that struggle of who am I, and like I don't want to do this.
I'm not good enough.
Right. All of these doubts and anxieties.
Everything that piles on.
It's really, you know, people praised Inside Out for being like this complicated view of emotions and for kids, but I really think this movie does a better job of it.
I still have not seen Inside Out. That's one. There's a handful of.
It's a good movie.
There's
but
a
I think this is
handful
better.
in the middle of the Pixar movies that I just absolutely just completely. I think when you guys
your
were
kids aged out.
when
and
you
then-
guys aged out, I think I kind of celebrated being able to watch, you know, movies for a older audience in the house without waiting for you guys. You know, like
Yeah.
it just sort of. I think I swung away from a lot of animated stuff, but yeah, I think totally. There's a lot that kids can lock onto about anxiety and doubt. I don't want to sound like the old man, but I think that is especially relevant with internet generations who are growing up. Everything is not magnified, but compounded.
I
constant.
agree.
It's constantly piled on. You're constantly seeing the best of people's lives and feeling like you don't measure up. And I think that is, without sounding like an alarmist and saying the internet's terrible for children, I think it can be a lot for kids in development to take.
No, I think the internet is both amazing and horrible at the same time. It's extreme is what
Right.
it is. It's got the good goods and the bad bads.
The potential to crush a kid with doubt and anxiety is definitely there.
Right. Well, there's always so much negativity that a kid's going to experience on the internet. And, like, I keep going back to that scene with 22, like, when all of those mentors were saying, like, the bad things that she was
Right.
remembering. Like, that is what it feels like to be a kid and hear people say all these horrible things about you.
Well, not only that, the other side of the 22 thing and the other side of that is the positivity. You see so much, you see the best of everybody's life and you feel like, oh, that's not me. You know, like you see
Right.
someone take a selfie that they've done their hair and makeup for and taken 100 of them to get the perfect selfie and go, oh, I'm not pretty like that. And it's like, well, yeah, nobody is. You're seeing the best out of everything, but everything is presented as, oh, this is just my everyday life. And 22 also sees that in all of these new souls that just get through their orientation.
They're so good at it,
and
yeah.
move on. And she's been there. I mean, they're in the billions, and she's number 22. She's been there for thousands and thousands of years.
And not only that, but
unable to move on.
But all of our mentors are such influential
Right.
figures. They're all like the
Abraham
best.
Lincoln and
They really thought, like, in the afterlife, they were like, oh, she's not doing well. We need to show her the best of the best. When she needed someone ordinary, someone who she could look at and be like, well, your life is kind of crap. And then experience life on Earth and realize, but that's okay.
to say your life is kind of crap, and then not only experience life on Earth, experience life as him,
Right.
and be like, holy shit, pizza's great. You know, like this thing that we all take for granted, you know.
That she couldn't taste for millennium.
Seeing I love that this movie lets you experience life through a brand new person's eyes. Like, we all see babies come into the world, but a baby can't articulate, you know, the newness that they're experiencing.
The reason that they're crying and screaming out all the time.
And this movie does it. They lock you in with it right away when they leave the hospital. that.
Well, I mean, New York, like, what a place to be born.
That
like,
sensory overload. And right before they leave, she goes, hold on. And he's, I don't want to go out the door yet. That really dragged me into feeling that, feeling like, oh my God, how crushing that must be for a brand new thing to be thrust out into.
It's still hard for people sometimes. Like,
for
I
sure.
experienced that, and it's like...
But I'm saying, yeah, I've experienced that, you've experienced that, and didn't you feel that watching her experience that?
It was this, like, thing in my stomach. Yeah, yes, it was bad.
It's really intense. But I think that's what made it so effective, and I think that's what locked me into her experiencing everything, like the subway.
Right.
I found this drink under this, like, and everything.
Put that back.
Everything's great, for to really watch her enjoy life.
Mm-hmm. That's just a subway vent. Like, that's not important.
Right.
Like.
Yeah, she's like flying or whatever. Yeah, everything that. He says it at one point too. She's like, "Oh, all this. I love this and I love this," and he's like, "That's not your purpose. That's just living."
Yeah,
and it's like, no, that's it. That's like, I know people sort of looking for God and looking for spiritual experience, and I can never quite articulate. Without getting too deep or pretentious, and if I am, please stop me.
It's okay. You're allowed with a deep movie like this.
I find that stuff in such mundane things. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's looking for this big thing.
Right.
But if I go out in the woods and I just walk and I listen to what it sounds like when it gets quiet out there. Like the smallest thing. Like that's what it's about. That's when I am really enjoying it. And that's when you're in the moment. I apologize. I've side railed this into something like an Alan Watts talk.
No.
Like
I have something similar, a weird tangent. I have this memory of, I think I was in middle school or something. I can't remember. But there was a moment where I was outside. It was at a friend's house, and I saw, like, a plant. It was just like a bush, but like one of the leaves hit the light perfectly. And then I was just like, I picked the leaf and I was staring at it and looking at all of the intricate parts of it.
That's it.
And then I had this thought, like, I want to remember this forever. And I kind of like locked it in and like kept thinking about it. And then now it's like, I don't remember what happened surrounding that day, but I will always remember that leaf. And I thought of that when 22 sees this leaf falling at her.
The little helicopter thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is it, and that's what this movie is trying to say, is like, it is that leaf, it is that, that little thing that I take for granted every day. Mm-hmm. And enjoy that, because that's what life is. And I just, this movie is, the more I talk about it, the more it's like, this movie is like monumentally existential. Like, this movie is.
I've heard some people say it did give them like.
It's like a religious experience
or a panic attack.
Yeah, no, I can see it. I don't say existential in a bad way. Mm-hmm. I think this movie makes you think about, what have I been taking for granted? In the same way I told you, we watched It's a Wonderful Life right before Christmas. And that movie is all about just perspective and being grateful.
Yeah.
That's the lesson of that movie. And I think this movie does something very similar, where it makes you sort of reconsider, am I appreciating my life? Am I living my life? Am I just sitting here watching TikTok videos when I could be really getting something more out of my life, mm-hmm. instead of hiding from it?
Like making TikToks.
Like,
no, I'm kidding.
Like, I'm not even going to trash that, because you're actively doing something in the moment when you're creating something.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is, I'm not being holier than thou. I love my phone. You know what I mean? But I'm just like everybody else in that I hide from the world in my phone. Well, we all do it. And probably this movie that you spend 2 hours hiding from the world watching this movie makes you kind of go, you get to the end of it and they go, it's almost like the movie's going, you really could have spent this 2 hours enjoying your life. But
all the animators that worked on this movie are just, like, maybe I should just quit.
You didn't learn anything. You have something on here I'm very curious about.
Okay, yes. It's about race stereotypes. Now, this movie, we've talked all about the good stuff. And I've heard a lot of people online praising this movie.
Are you going to ruin this movie for me?
No, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to hopefully get people to look at it a little more critically. Because I've heard a lot of people of color talking about a film stereotype that this movie plays into. An archetype, not a stereotype. Of turning black people into... it's typically animals in animated or live action movies. It's a way like...
You're talking about like the crows in Dumbo or
like,
things like that.
Or like Princess and the Frog, Brother Bear.
All
of these movies that have their main character turn into something else. And they make them a different race because it's like, oh, hey, we have diversity, but not really.
Okay.
So that's like...
You're talking about like sidelining characters of color, essentially.
Yes, okay. But still having them as the main character because a studio can do this. They can be like, see, we have a black Disney princess, but it's like she's only black for 30 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring this up because I've heard a lot of people talking about it, mainly as a negative. And again, we're both white, so like this doesn't affect us in the same way. But I did want to talk about like why are the reasons that this is a negative archetype? And from what I can see, it's because it's used just as a stunt for publicity. Like, oh, we have this diverse movie. It's used to not actually get into the issue of race or like the cultures of the race you're portraying.
Right.
And it dehumanizes. But when I look at Soul, it doesn't do any of the negatives that archetype actually does.
I was just going to disagree with you.
I know, but this is what I've heard people of color saying about the archetype itself, and then looking at Soul and being like, see, this is another negative, and it could still have negative impact. I don't know all of the nuances of it, but just looking at that, it looks like it's not a full archetype.
I don't think, and yeah, I am gonna I'm gonna also reiterate, I can only speak to this from my point of view as a white dude. But yes, all those things, I can't comment on Princess and the Frog. I haven't seen it, or Brother Bear. I don't know those movies. In this movie, yes, he's turned into a cat for a good part of the movie. I see a lot of criticism of movies that where something happens to a female character or a character of color, and people are upset about why you got to treat your characters like that. And the answer is because your character has to have a problem. Your character has to, I'm not even talking about turning it into something. Just, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff on Game of Thrones of like, oh, why does Sansa have to be like this abuse victim? And it's like, because it gives her something to overcome. Like, she can't just cruise through here and have character growth out of nowhere. She's not Rey Skywalker. Anyway, yeah, shots fired. yes, he's turned into a cat, and that gives him a problem to overcome. And I think that would be more problematic if he were the only black character in this movie. This movie is almost entirely peopled with characters of color, and that's not a negative.
Right.
Even the little girl who takes lessons and plays jazz trombone she's a lot of his students are Asian or black or Hispanic.
Right.
This movie deals with black culture in that it is about jazz, and it's not about jazz in the way that La La Land is about jazz, where it's about this white guy playing lounge piano in a tourist bar. It's about real jazz in like a Brooklyn nightclub. It's about this culture, and I think it's celebrating this culture. It's celebrating black culture without being like an overtly black culture movie. This is a movie that exposes everybody to this subset of music that is black in origin. You know what I mean? And I think this movie is no movie is above criticism. I think this movie portrays people of color very positively, even though one of them spends the majority of the movie as a cat. Like, you know what I mean?
That was kind of my take on it too, is that this humanizes Joe, and it gives us like, this whole movie is about getting into other people's shoes, quite literally. They take that interpretation.
Right.
But it can give audiences a view into other cultures, and I think that's what it did.
I think so as well. Again, we are two white dudes.
Yes.
If you are a person of color and we are getting this wrong, I would love to hear and have a discussion, online. You tweet at me. Tell me why we're right or wrong about this, because I think it's a discussion worth having. I'm glad you put it in the notes here.
Yeah, it's a conversation I've heard around, and I just think it's an important conversation to have. Like, you can't have, oh, here's this negative aspect of a film, we're just gonna overlook it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's worth having in the same way. Again, I make a lot of parallels to Coco, because Coco deals with death and music. The same as this, and people of color. It's about a different culture as well. And I think, from my point of view, I think Coco portrayed Mexican culture and Mexican music in a very positive light as well.
Right.
I don't know if there was a lot of discussion around any problematic portrayals there, but from where I stood, I said this is a great vehicle. This is a movie about Mexican culture that is not strictly for or intended for or aimed at Mexican audiences. And this is a great way to spread that culture and awareness of that culture to other people.
Yeah, I learned a lot about the Day of the Dead through that
kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
But I also want to emphasize that if this trope does offend you, like, that is more than okay. Like, you are allowed to be like, hey, this is a good portrayal of my culture, but it still plays into, like, it doesn't exist within a bubble. It still plays into this film stereotype that
right
is negative and has an impact.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not suggesting we're the authority on this. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, if you have another point of view other than ours, please, let us know. I would love to let's have this conversation, and
I want to know more, because that's kind of just where I stand right now, is like the negatives of this, like, the trope in general do not portray this movie.
Right. And also there is in with talk of diversity all the time, I notice this a lot. I don't think I'm alone in that there's almost like a diversity checklist. There's like a corporate diversity checklist in a lot of movies.
Yes.
And I think that's worse than having no diversity because it just tokenizes everything. Again, I could be wrong on this. I know it gives work to a lot of actors who otherwise wouldn't get work, but the portrayals of people of color, of gay people, of women, sometimes it's there just to check a box and say, look, we have a gay person in Star Wars. There's a gay kiss in Star Wars now. And
the worst possible way to do it.
It adds nothing to anything. It does nothing for anybody. It's not organic. It's heavy-handed. At the same time, is almost not existing. And it's just lazy.
You know, I think that's even one criticism I have for the current era of Doctor Who. Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor is great, but her companions don't do much, and she has one for every demographic. Right.
The few I've seen in her run echo a criticism I've heard a lot. It's like they don't go to any cool planets anymore. They just go to the most racist periods of Earth so that they can lecture you about why racism is bad or whatever. And I'm sure there's more to it than that, but it is the few times I've seen it, it's like they're just on Earth all the time. Like they don't.
Honestly, that's Doctor Who anyway. They don't have the budget for all that CGI.
I mean, it is sort of like the little bit of Jodie Whittaker I've seen, I think she's fine as a doctor. She's fun. She's a good time. But it is very much like, we need a woman doctor now. All right, let's plug one in. All right, diverse companions. Okay. And it's just sort of like, it's paint by numbers after that.
Yeah.
Again, that's me, not just as a white dude, but like, I'm not a Whovian. Like, I'm not deep into it the way you are. I'm sure I have a different perspective on the whole thing.
It's a very complex show.
I'm sure it is. I'm not that deep in it.
I get it.
Speaking of jazz, I just wanted to hit this last note in my doc. I think jazz is the perfect vehicle for this, not just because it showcases black culture, but it actually plays into the theme. Jazz, or this form of jazz, like freeform jazz, is all about being in the moment, going with the flow. Again, it's almost Taoist. It's almost Buddhist in the way it does it.
You got a freestyle life.
And Joe is not that person. He's able to play the music that way, but he's not able to live his life that way. And I think that is a great way that they didn't just plug jazz in because it's black music and we need we need to check that box on the diversity checklist. It organically works its way in. Yeah. And is a part of the story. And the theme of the everything in this movie fits together perfectly, and this is how you do diversity and in a film. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 22 even says like, "Oh, I'm jazzing." Like
that's
she uses it as a
so
verb.
Funny as the running joke. He's like, "It's not jazzing," until the end, and he's like, "You are good at jazzing," because she is. She's great at it.
Yeah. I think this episode has already gone on long, but I do want to make one more point, which is that when my initial reaction to the very end of this movie was, "Aw, Joe's alive," because I thought my interpretation was like he is running from death, and I kind of wanted like he's accepting it kind of moment. Sure. And then they gave him a second chance, which in its own way, now that he's learned how to live life and just be free, that is a nice way to end it. But I was kind of looking for a darker one.
Sure. Well, I mean, you kind of half got that, where he was willing to stay in the afterlife. You know what I mean?
It just felt like a bit of a cop-out.
But at the same time, like, Joe wasn't running from death because he thought life was precious. Joe wanted to get to his gig. He kept saying over and over, like, my life can't end. It just started. Like, he's lived,
not today,
40-something years, however old Joe is, and not really lived his life. He's just been in pursuit of this. So
That's true.
I did like the ending. I think the only thing that threw me off, like I said, was it just wasn't going the way I thought it was going to. Like he made his gig. He got the job, and then it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Jim Carrey has a quote that I see, it floats around the internet, because he's become a real like spiritual guy.
Yeah, he's super cool.
But his quote is, I'm paraphrasing it. It's like, I wish everyone could have their dreams come true so they could figure out that that's not what makes people happy. Like it's this, real kind of big thought of like, yeah, whatever it is you're chasing, that's not the key. It's
not enough.
And I think this movie sort of encapsulates that really well.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you for picking this movie. I would have watched this eventually, but this sort of bumped it to the top of my list, and I'm so glad I watched this. I'm gonna watch it again soon because I just think this is probably near the list of best Pixar movies for me right now.
I want to say thank you for agreeing that it's an amazing movie.
I really
wish all parents could be like that.
Well, don't forget who the cool parent is in this house.
Whoa, Dad.
Wait. She's not out there, is she?
I don't know.
All right.
Anyway.
Just kidding. That's what I have a huge, strong recommendation for this movie for everybody. Soul is great.
Same here. I really think every Pixar movie is, minus the Cars.
I can't count. I've only seen the first Cars.
Okay.
And I think it's a fine movie. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a bad movie at all.
I mean, it kind of has the same message as Soul. He's trying to get back to being a race.
And they all kind of have the same message, don't they? No, I'm just kidding.
We're on to you, Pixar. The new Pixar theory is just they're all the same movie.
They're all the same movie. They're just plugging in different characters. Soul, go watch it, please.
Definitely.
We got shout-outs?
Yeah, I do. Weird. I put it in the show notes, but it's not there anymore. It's Ratatouille. Again. But, so I shouted out Ratatouille.
While we're on the topic of Pixar doesn't make bad movies.
No.
If you're going to bring up Ratatouille, you're going to remind me that, they don't always make great movies. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I will never be a fan of Ratatouille.
And that's fine.
I don't hate Ratatouille, by the way. I just don't think it's... I don't know.
A rat cooking, come on, it's a funny concept.
It is a funny concept. The art of Ratatouille is beautiful.
Yes.
But...
on our review episode, I shouted out... Playbill made a fake musical thing of, here's TikTok songs that people wrote for a fan musical.
Right.
Well, Broadway actually put on the musical. They made over $1 million off of it. It's this time where Broadway can't do Broadway.
Right.
And so here was this idea made by fans. They ended up recording in a Zoom call sort of concept. They casted it. It took like a month to put together. And it was, I believe it was $5 a ticket. It was kind of a pay as you want sort of thing.
Okay.
They raised a bunch of money for Broadway, and they casted all of these famous musical actors to play the parts. And I haven't watched it yet, but it's on like my list of things to do. Mixed reviews, but like they put it together in a few weeks.
Sure.
What can you expect? I think it's a fun project, and I'm like amazed that a TikTok song went viral enough to create this thing.
All right.
So we'll put that in the description.
Good follow-up.
Check that out.
Good follow-up on a previous shout-out. So
I feel like a news anchor reporting.
Revisiting our last story.
Can I get a raise now?
No.
Okay. What about you?
I'll pay for your Ratatouille ticket. How about that? I'm going to shout out a YouTube channel called Hats Off Entertainment. They are a sort of movie, not necessarily movie reviews, just sort of a movie channel. They do a lot of they call them mini documentaries, like little 15, 20, 30-minute documentaries that profile like an actor, or here's a behind the scenes of this movie. They have a lot of stuff on like John Candy. And they have one about James Gandolfini, who played Tony Soprano, and just what a incredible actor he was beyond that role. They're just these like short documentaries. They're easy to make time for. They're just interesting sort of behind the scenes profiles on actors and sort of beloved cult movies and things like that. There's a podcast that is spun out of it called Almost Cult Classics, talking about movies that they're not quite cult favorites. They didn't hit any particular audience big time, but they are like still like these kind of quiet, good little movies that a lot of times don't get included in conversation.
That's really cool.
So yeah, I just kind of stumbled on that, and I think it's a really interesting, well done little set of film documentaries.
Yeah, I'm sure you would learn like a lot of film trivia.
Yeah,
through that.
Well, stuff. There's one I just watched the other day about Chris Farley, and it just kind of made me sad all over again that he died so young, because I really kind of believe like Chris Farley would be doing some really incredible comedic and maybe even like dramatic work by this point in his career, 20 plus years after his death.
It's a shame.
But just really kind of reminds you like, yeah, his movie career wasn't quite off the ground yet, but like he was so great on SNL and just such a great like Second City performer.
Right.
But yeah, really just a cool little YouTube channel, and I'll have the link to that in the show notes.
All right.
We want to thank you for coming back and helping us kick off season 2 of The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. It helps our visibility and helps us grow the show.
It does not help us pronounce things correctly, though.
Thank you very much.
Another way to help us grow is to tell people... oh my god.
Oh, someone shouldn't have talked that smack.
Tell people about us, whether it's a friend, relative, a rat that knows how to cook. Yeah, just tell people who like movies about us, and maybe they'll like us.
Indeed. Looks like I have the wheel next week.
What are you picking?
We watched The Mandalorian. We talk about Star Wars all the time. So I picked a movie that has been called out by George Lucas as a direct influence on Star Wars. We are going to watch The Hidden Fortress. It is a Japanese movie about a samurai protecting a warlord's daughter. That's as much as I know about it. It is a Japanese samurai movie from the 40s, I believe, and it was supposedly a heavy influence on the Star Wars films.
That's interesting.
I've never seen it, and I've always wanted to, since I figured out that Star Wars is derivative of these old samurai films. So
right.
I've seen a bunch of samurai stuff like Yojimbo and the Seven Samurai and things like that, and I really enjoy that genre. So I thought I'd pick this out.
I can like kind of understand how it's derived, but also like not at all. Like all the fantasy and sci-fi elements, like I don't see much of the samurai.
Well, I guess we'll talk about that next week after we watch the movie.
All right.
Anybody wants to watch along with us, it is on HBO Max right now. and possibly in the TCM section. So.
All right, that's the Hidden Fortress episode 4, A New Hope, right?
Yes.
Okay,
A
yeah.
New Hope. Smartass. What's your social media?
It's Austin N. Rood and austin.n.rood.
All right. I am philrood.com and at philrood on Twitter, at philrood75 on Instagram, at, here come the Roodster on TikTok.
Even he can't remember his TikTok now.
I know it's an Alice in Chains lyric that I modified. That's it. Austin, you want to read the credits?
Yep. We did everything ourselves.
There you have it. We'll see you next time on The Picture Show.
See ya.